They said I could wait. The imperial noble consort could not. So my physician was taken to save her life while I lay dying. When I finally breathed my last, my husband went mad with grief, searching for divine healers to resurrect the dead. But when heaven granted me a second chance, I opened my eyes 8 years in the past, at the palace banquet where I first chose my husband. This time I would not choose the righteous minister everyone praised. This time I would choose the man they called the blood wolf of the empire. The man no woman dared to marry. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments which country you're watching from. And if this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe. Enjoy listening. When I fell gravely ill, it coincided with the imperial noble consort's difficult labor. Marcus borrowed my physician to rush to the palace for emergency treatment. They said I could wait. The noble consort could not. After I died from my illness without timely medical care, Marcus went mad, clutching my corpse. He sought out divine healers wandering temples and mountain shrines, begging them to bring the dead back to life. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the palace banquet 8 years prior. The emperor asked me, "Lady Visha, which young master of the Sterling family has captured your heart?" My gaze swept past the tense Marcus and settled on the cold-eyed man wrapped in dark fox fur. I bowed my head and replied, "It is Noah of the Sterling family." Noah, Marcus's younger cousin, the living demon spoken of throughout the empire. It was the height of winter when Marcus returned from the palace, his official robe still unfastened, bursting into my chamber without even closing the door. The icy wind made me shiver, but Marcus's words cut deeper. The noble consort is in labor. The palace physicians are helpless. Dr. Aldrich's medical skill is renowned throughout the realm. Perhaps he can turn the tide. Physical pain pales beside heartache. I clenched the bed sheets and murmured, "The imperial noble consort's delivery. What concern is that of yours?" Marcus's voice grew sharper, as if I were the one blind to right and wrong. "When lives hang in the balance, must you still hold a grudge against me? Lives hang in the balance. Indeed, I am terminally ill, on the brink of death. Yet the noble consort merely faces childbirth, and my life-saving physician must be taken from me. The only life truly at stake is hers. Mine is merely a stubborn, petty quarrel." I looked at Marcus, tears falling straight down. I thought my heart had died, but it still hurts. Marcus opened his mouth, reaching out to comfort me, but withdrew his hand before touching me. His voice was hoarse. "Visha, you've always been sensible." "Yes, I've always understood reason. So I must prioritize the noble consort above all else. Pearl hairpins, jade ornaments, life-saving physicians, and my husband's heart. Whatever she demands, I must give. For 7 years since marrying Marcus, I've endured my husband's coldness, my mother-in-law's cruelty, and the noble consort's relentless targeting. Everyone praised the Sterling family's Visha as the most sensible woman in the capital, but my endurance hurt so deeply. What if I refused to lend him? Marcus gently wiped a cold tear from my cheek with his fingertip. His touch tender, yet his words cold. "Visha, you've been ill for 2 years. There's no rush for you, but the noble consort cannot wait. Rest assured, I'll return swiftly." As head of the household, he needn't have sought my consent to take a physician with him. When Marcus left, the snow clinging to his robes hadn't yet melted. He didn't bother closing the door behind him. No intention of lingering. Such haste. He forgot to ask about my condition. His heart was wholly devoted to noble consort Seraphina. What did 7 years of companionship matter? What did swallowing my pride matter? What did being virtuous and kind-hearted matter? In the end, I could never compete with that woman in the palace. Perhaps the gods took pity on my bitter life. For that very night, my illness flared with Dr. Aldrich absent. The hastily summoned physician knew nothing of my condition. Delayed treatment led to my life hanging in the balance during that heavy snowfall. Freed from that heavy shell, I heard my mate's heart-wrenching cries pierce the silent night sky. The heavy snow ceased. The noble consort and her son were safe. Marcus had not returned all night. At daybreak, hurried hoofbeats echoed on the quiet streets. Marcus grabbed Dr. Aldrich by the collar, stumbling as he ran. Hearing the wails from my courtyard, he stumbled and fell outside the gate. He scrambled back up, not even bothering to brush the snow from his clothes. He pushed Dr. Aldrich forward, pleading, "Look, go see. How is my wife?" Dr. Aldrich remained still. News of my passing had already spread throughout the capital with the cries. Marcus walked slowly to my bedside. As if unable to stand, he knelt before me, took my cold hand, and whispered softly as if afraid to startle me. "Visha, I'm back. I brought Dr. Aldrich back. Let him examine you. Prescribe some medicine. After taking it, don't sleep. Get up and talk with me." The room fell silent, filled only with low, muffled sobs. After a moment of stillness, Marcus turned to the frozen Dr. Aldrich. His eyes reddened as he snapped, "I summoned you to examine my wife. What are you standing there for?" Dr. Aldrich replied expressionlessly, "Minister Marcus, your wife has passed away. Even with all my skill, I cannot bring back the dead." Marcus hurled porcelain across the floor, cursing Dr. Aldrich as a quack, losing all the decorum of a noble scion. He drove out the weeping maidservants and roared like a madman, "She's merely asleep. What is there to cry about? Get out! All of you, get out!" Only when the room was utterly empty did Marcus collapse beside the bed. He forced his face into my icy palms and murmured, "Visha, do you blame me? I was wrong. Wake up and scold me. Why have you never scolded me?" Because since childhood I learned propriety. Before she died, my mother taught that a woman must know her place. Honor her husband, be forgiving and magnanimous, virtuous and gracious. Only as death approached did I realize this world's devouring etiquette was taught only to women. As I was laid to rest, my only wish was that if heaven granted me another life, I would never be born a woman again. But when I opened my eyes once more, the air was filled with the refined music of the imperial court. I knelt in a hall resplendent with gold and jade, and from the throne above came the question, "Lady Visha, which young master of the Sterling family has captured your heart?" I stared blankly for a long moment, my gaze lingering almost disrespectfully upon the emperor. Still in the prime of his life, exactly as he had been 8 years prior. Someone had asked me the same question back then. I had just arrived in the capital with my grandmother from the southern province, specifically for the purpose of selecting a husband. My mother had passed away when I was young, so grandmother raised me in her stead. I knew nothing of political rivalries, only that everything I had learned since birth was preparation for marrying into the capital. Before my mother passed, she had strived to raise me gentle and virtuous, hoping this would earn me favor with my future in-laws in the capital, a future I could only imagine. After all, the southern province and the capital were worlds apart. Once married, I would have no branch to cling to. I once believed my mother's teachings with unwavering conviction. A woman's entire life depended on choosing the right husband. So, after much deliberation, I chose the upright and virtuous Marcus. Yet it led to a life of hardship and an untimely end. Heaven took pity on my foolishness and granted me a second chance. This time, no matter what, I will not repeat my mistakes. My gaze swept past Marcus's tense form and settled on the man beside him, wrapped in a fox fur cloak, looking lean and predatory. Alas, I had returned too late. Grandmother had just mentioned to the Empress that I had set my sights on a young man from the Sterling family. To refuse now would be to go back on my word before the Empress. Among the Sterling family's marriageable sons, aside from Marcus, only the notorious Noah remained. Closing my eyes, I steeled myself and dragged Noah into the fray. "It's Noah." The moment those words left my lips, even the musicians stumbled off beat. Noah knocked over his wine cup, his gaze lifting to meet mine, cold and sharp. The atmosphere froze for an inexplicable second because I had chosen a man despised by all. Noah's reputation in the capital was abysmal. A bloodthirsty man by nature. He commanded the Imperial Shadow Guard, serving as the Imperial family's loyal blade. His notorious cruelty had left him unmarried at 28, without even a concubine. His daily pastime consisted of overseeing executions and interrogations in the dungeons beneath the palace. Those who saw his face in the morning rarely lived to see the sunset. When I called his name, the entire hall fell silent for 3 full seconds. Then the Emperor laughed heartily. "The fourth Sterling son. Excellent choice. Lady Visha has both courage and vision. Courage to marry a killer. Vision to see past his reputation. Or perhaps just foolishness. But I knew something no one else did. In my previous life after I died, Noah was the only one in the Sterling family who came to my grave. He came every year on the anniversary of my death, always bringing a box of honeyed chestnuts from Golden Pavilion in the southern province. My soul followed him once. I watched him kneel before my tombstone for 6 hours in the pouring rain, not saying a word, just kneeling. That year, Marcus had already remarried to a noble lady. She had borne him twin sons. The Sterling family prospered under imperial favor. Only Noah remembered the forgotten daughter-in-law, who died of illness in winter. So this time I chose him. The Sterling family's main estate was in an uproar. Lady Helena, Marcus's mother and the family matriarch, summoned me to her quarters the day after the engagement was announced. "You foolish girl," she hissed, her face twisted with displeasure. "Of all your options you chose Noah? He's a demon. A monster. He'll drag you down to hell with him." I kept my eyes lowered, hands folded demurely. Grandmother approved the match. The emperor blessed it. "It is already decided." "Decided?" She slammed her teacup down. "You could have had Marcus, the eldest son, the heir. Instead you chose his cousin, a man who bathes in blood and terrifies the entire capital. In my previous life I had cowered before this woman for 7 years. I had endured her insults, her cruelty, her endless demands. Not this time. I lifted my eyes and met her gaze directly. Noah may be brutal, but at least he is honest about what he is. Some men wear masks of virtue while their hearts rot beneath. Lady Helena's face turned purple. "You dare." "I dare," I interrupted, something I would never have done before. "I chose Noah and that choice is final. You cannot change it." I left her chambers with my head high, ignoring her shrieks for servants to drag me back. Freedom I was learning tasted sweet. The wedding took place 3 months later in the depth of spring. It was a subdued affair compared to what I had experienced with Marcus. No grand procession through the capital. No hundreds of guests. No elaborate 7-day celebration. Noah stood at the altar in dark crimson robes, the color of dried blood. His face was pale, his frame lean beneath the heavy silk. He looked like a blade wrapped in crimson, sharp, dangerous, ready to strike. His eyes were alert and assessing, missing nothing. When I approached, he studied me with the intensity of a predator assessing prey. "You chose me," he said flatly. "It wasn't a question." "I did." "Why?" I could have lied. Could have said something about duty or fate or family honor. Instead, I told him the truth. Or part of it. "Because you were the only one who remembered me when I died." His eyes widened fractionally. For a moment something flickered across his face. Confusion. Recognition. Understanding. Then it was gone, replaced by his usual cold mask. "You speak strangely," he said. "You'll get used to it." He almost smiled. Almost. The ceremony proceeded. We drank the ceremonial wine. We bowed to heaven and earth. We were pronounced husband and wife. And when Noah lifted my veil in the bridal chamber, he looked at me with those piercing eyes and said, "I am not a good man, Visha. You will regret this choice." I reached up and touched his face, feeling him flinch beneath my fingers. "In my experience," I said softly, "the men who proclaim their own goodness are the ones to fear. You at least tell the truth." He caught my wrist not roughly but firmly. "I have killed more people than you can imagine. My hands are stained with blood that will never wash clean. I am the Emperor's blade. His executioner. His monster. Then we shall be monsters together," I said. Because I refused to be a victim again. Something changed in his expression. A crack in the ice. "Again," he whispered. But I didn't answer. Instead, I leaned forward and pressed my lips to his, tasting surprise and hesitation before he responded. That night, for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I felt alive. Life with Noah was nothing like life with Marcus had been. Noah did not keep concubines, did not attend banquets or seek favor at court. He left before dawn for the Imperial Guard headquarters and returned after dusk, often covered in grime and occasionally blood. But he always asked how my day had been. He always closed the door behind him when he entered my chambers. He never once forgot to ask if I was well. "You're different from what I expected," I told him one evening as we shared dinner. Just the 2 of us, no servants hovering. What did you expect? A monster. He set down his chopsticks. And you're just a man. A tired, overworked man who has seen too much death. Some would say that makes me more of a monster, not less. I reached across the table and took his hand. Some people are fools. He stared at our joined hands, and for a moment I thought he might pull away. Instead, he turned his palm up and threaded his fingers through mine. I don't understand you, Visha. That's all right. I don't entirely understand myself either. We sat like that until the candles burned low, just holding hands, neither of us speaking. It was the most peaceful I had felt in 8 years. But peace, I should have known, never lasts. 2 months into our marriage, the imperial noble consort summoned me to the palace. Serafina, the woman who had been the source of so much misery in my previous life. Marcus's true love. The reason my physician had been taken from me as I lay dying. She sat on a throne-like chair in her receiving hall, draped in silk the color of peonies, her beauty legendary throughout the empire. Lady Visha, she said, her voice like honey over poison. How kind of you to accept my invitation. Noble consort. I bowed precisely as protocol demanded. No more, no less. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I was surprised to hear of your marriage to Fourth Master Noah. Everyone expected you to choose Marcus. Expectations are meant to be defied. How bold. She gestured for me to sit, and tea was served. I wanted to meet you because your husband works closely with the Imperial Guard. And the Imperial Guard serves the Imperial family. Which means he serves me. I sipped my tea, saying nothing. I wanted to ensure we understand each other, she continued. When I require something, I expect compliance. From Noah. And from you. So this was a power play. An assertion of dominance. In my previous life, I had submitted to every one of her demands. Given her my finest jewelry when she admired it. Sent my physician when she claimed illness. Swallowed every humiliation with grace and poise. Not this time. Noble consort, I said carefully. My husband serves the emperor. Not you. There is a distinction. Her smile froze. Careful, Lady Visha. I am favored by His Majesty. My position is unassailable. For now. The words hung in the air like a blade. Serafina's eyes flashed with anger. You dare threaten me? Not at all. I merely observe that favor is fickle. Today's beloved may be tomorrow's forgotten. It is the way of courts, is it not? I stood, setting down my teacup. Thank you for the tea, noble consort. But I must return home. My husband will be expecting me. I left before she could respond, my heart pounding but my steps steady. I had just made an enemy of the most powerful woman in the palace. But I had also made it clear that I was not the same Visha who could be bullied and broken. When I told Noah about the encounter that evening, I expected anger or concern. Instead, he laughed. Actually laughed. A rare, genuine sound that transformed his entire face. You told the noble consort her favor was fickle? I may have implied it. He shook his head, still smiling. You're either very brave or very foolish. Can't I be both? Apparently. He pulled me onto his lap, an intimacy that still surprised me. Visha, do you know what you've done? Made an enemy? Given her a reason to target you. She'll make your life miserable. I rested my head against his shoulder. She already did. In another life. He stilled. You keep saying things like that. As if you've lived before. I closed my eyes. I had never told him the full truth. Never explained that I had died once already and been given a second chance. But perhaps he deserved to know. Noah, I said softly. If I told you I had lived this life once before, would you believe me? Silence. Then go on. So I told him everything. About my previous life with Marcus. About the 7 years of suffering. About my illness and death. About choosing him this time because he had been the only one who mourned me. When I finished, Noah was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, that explains why you looked at me with such strange recognition at the banquet. Why you seem to know things you shouldn't. Why you're nothing like the gentle, obedient girl your family raised. You believe me? I've seen enough impossible things in my work for the Emperor to know that the world is stranger than most people imagine. He tilted my chin up to look at him. But Visha, if you've truly lived this before, Then you know what's coming. You know the dangers. I do. Then you also know that choosing me puts you in even greater danger than before. I am the Emperor's blade. The Empire's monster. Marcus may have neglected you, but at least he kept you safe. I touched his face, feeling the sharp line of his jaw. Safe and miserable, or dangerous and alive. I know which I prefer. Alive might not last long if you keep antagonizing the noble consort. Then we'll just have to be smarter than her. He studied my face for a long moment, then pulled me closer. Very well. If you insist on courting danger, then I insist on teaching you how to survive it. What do you mean? Starting tomorrow you learn to fight. I blinked. Fight. Defend yourself. Use weapons. Identify poisons. Escape danger. All the things I wish every person knew, but especially you. His expression turned serious. If you're going to be my wife, truly my wife, then you need to be able to protect yourself when I'm not there. In my previous life, such a suggestion would have been scandalous. A lady learning combat? Unthinkable. But I was no longer that lady. All right, I agreed. Teach me. His smile was sharp and pleased. This is going to be interesting. The training began at dawn the next day. Noah was a merciless instructor. He worked me until my muscles screamed, teaching me strikes, blocks, and grappling techniques. He showed me which pressure points would incapacitate an attacker, and where to aim a blade for maximum effect. In a real fight, he said, correcting my stance for the 100th time, there are no rules, no honor, only survival. Your opponent will be stronger, faster, and more experienced. You must be more vicious. How vicious? Whatever it takes to live. He handed me a practice blade. Again, I attacked. He deflected easily, sweeping my legs out from under me. I hit the ground hard. You're still hesitating, he said, offering me a hand up. You're afraid of hurting me. Aren't I supposed to be? In practice? No. In real combat, that hesitation will get you killed. He reset his stance. Again. And this time actually try to hurt me. So I did. I came at him with everything I had, striking for vulnerable points, using my smaller size to my advantage, fighting dirty just as he taught me. He still won. But he had to work for it. When we finished, both breathing hard, he was actually smiling. Better, he said. Much better. Over the following weeks, I learned not just combat but survival. How to detect poison in wine by its faint almond scent. How to pick locks with a hairpin. How to move silently through corridors. How to read a room for exits and weapons. I learned that Noah's brutality, his reputation as a monster, was something he had carefully cultivated. A mask he wore to intimidate enemies and protect the few things he cared about. And slowly I realized I was becoming one of those things. The turning point came 4 months into our marriage. I was visiting the market with 2 guards Noah had assigned me when I heard a familiar voice. Lady Visha? I turned to find Marcus standing behind me, dressed in fine robes, looking every inch the noble minister. Minister Marcus. I inclined my head politely. He looked uncomfortable. I hoped we might speak. Privately. I dismissed the guards a few paces away, keeping them in sight. What is it? How are you? He asked. I heard you married Noah. I was surprised. Why? Because no one expected me to choose him? Or because you assumed I would choose you? He flinched. Visha, I know we didn't part on good terms at the banquet. We didn't part on any terms. I simply chose someone else. But Noah? He's dangerous. Violent. He's not suitable for someone like you. I felt anger rise in my chest. Someone like me? You mean someone gentle and obedient? Someone who would endure neglect and cruelty with a smile. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? I stepped closer, keeping my voice low. You want to know why I chose Noah? Because he sees me. Because when he comes home he asks how I am. Because he closes the door behind him and remembers my existence. Because he would never, ever take my physician away to save another woman's life while I lay dying. Marcus paled. What are you talking about? Of course. To him that hadn't happened yet. To him, I was just his cousin's strange wife making even stranger accusations. Never mind, I said. Just know this. I am exactly where I want to be. with exactly who I want to be with. And that will never be you. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there in shock. When I told Noah about it that evening, he listened quietly, then said, "Did it feel good?" "What?" Telling him off. Saying all the things you couldn't say before. I thought about it. Yes. It felt wonderful. Good. He kissed my forehead. You're allowed to feel anger, Visha. You're allowed to be anything other than gentle and obedient. With me, you can be whoever you truly are. And for the first time, I believed him. The crisis came in the middle of winter. Noah had been working longer hours than usual. Some kind of investigation into corruption within the royal household. He came home exhausted, sometimes wounded, always tense. Then one night he didn't come home at all. I waited until midnight, then summoned the guards. "Where is fourth master?" "Summoned to the palace, my lady." Emergency orders from the emperor. I didn't like it. Something felt wrong. By dawn, when Noah still hadn't returned, I made a decision. I dressed in dark clothing, armed myself with the blade Noah had given me, and headed to the palace. The guards tried to stop me. "Lady Visha, you cannot. I am the wife of the commander of the Imperial Shadow Guard. I can go wherever I damn well please." I pushed past them, following the path Noah had shown me weeks earlier during one of our training sessions. A servant's passage that led to the dungeons beneath the palace. I found him in a cell. Noah, the Emperor's most loyal servant, locked behind bars like a common criminal. "Visha." He stood quickly, gripping the bars. "What are you doing here? You need to leave. Now. Not without you." "What happened?" "The noble consort accused me of treason. She claims I've been plotting with rival factions to undermine her position." My blood ran cold. That's absurd. It's also convenient. The Emperor can't ignore such accusations, even if he doubts them. I've been suspended pending investigation. When? When what? When did you find out about this accusation? Yesterday evening. Why? Because I know what she's planning. In my previous life, around the time of her childbirth, she consolidated enormous power. Anyone who might oppose her was removed or discredited. Noah is her biggest threat, so he's first. This was connected somehow. I could feel it. "Noah, I need you to trust me. This is part of something bigger. The noble consort is orchestrating something, and we need to figure out what before it's too late." Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Noah's eyes widened. "Hide. Now." I ducked into the shadows as a group of guards approached, led by a palace official I recognized. "Noah," the official announced. "You are to be transferred to the interrogation chambers for questioning regarding your alleged treason." They opened the cell and led Noah away in chains. I followed, keeping to the shadows, my heart pounding. The interrogation chamber was a nightmare of stone and iron. They chained Noah to a chair in the center, and I watched from a hidden alcove as they began their questioning. "Confess your crimes, and the Emperor may show mercy." "I have committed no crimes." "We have evidence of meetings with Lord Blackthorn, a known dissenter. Lord Blackthorn came to me with information about corruption. I reported it to the Emperor directly. Or you used it for your own purposes." The interrogation went on for hours. They didn't torture him physically. Even the noble consort knew better than to damage the Emperor's favored weapon too severely, but the psychological pressure was intense. Finally, they left him alone, still chained. I waited until the guards moved away, then slipped into the chamber. "Visha," Noah hissed when he saw me. "I told you to leave. And I ignored you. As usual." I began working on his chains with picks I'd hidden in my hair. "We're getting you out of here." "You can't. If they find you helping me, then they'll find me helping you. I don't care." "Visha." "Noah, in my previous life I let fear dictate my choices. I was obedient and proper, and it killed me. I am done being afraid." The lock clicked open. "Now let's go." He grabbed my wrist. "Wait. You said this is part of something bigger. What did you mean?" "In my other life I saw how she operated. She removes anyone who might protect her targets or question her. You're that obstacle now, just as I was then. But why would my imprisonment help with that?" "Because with you disgraced, Marcus becomes the highest-ranking Sterling family member. And Marcus has always been susceptible to her influence. Understanding dawned in Noah's eyes. She's consolidating power. If she controls Marcus, she controls one of the most influential families in court. Exactly. And I think I know what she's planning next. What? She's going to push for her son's position in the succession. Use it to force the emperor's hand on policy decisions. And she'll need Marcus's support as the loyal minister to legitimize those decisions. Noah was quiet for a moment. If you're right, we need proof before we can act. Then let's get proof. Together, we escaped the dungeons using the same passages I'd entered through. By the time the guards discovered Noah missing, we were already in the city, heading toward the Sterling family estate. What happened next was a blur of activity. Noah called in favors from his contacts in the Shadow Guard. I reached out to servants who had reason to resent the noble consort, people I'd learned about in my previous life. Slowly, we pieced together the noble consort's plan. She had indeed been pushing for her son's position in succession, just as I predicted. But more than that, she had been secretly gathering evidence against anyone who might oppose her, including Noah and several other influential court members. The accusation of treason was just the first move. Once Noah was removed, she planned to systemically eliminate her rivals under the guise of rooting out corruption. We need to get this to the emperor, Noah said, looking at the documents we'd gathered. He'll never believe us over her. She's too favored. Then we make it impossible for him to ignore. We spent the next week building an airtight case. Letters, testimonies, financial records showing bribes and payoffs. Everything we needed to prove the noble consort's manipulation. But we needed to present it carefully, publicly, where she couldn't simply have us silenced. The opportunity came during the New Year's banquet. All the court would be present. The emperor, the noble consort, Marcus, everyone who mattered. I dressed in red silk, the color of defiance. Noah wore his formal Shadow Guard uniform, polished and imposing despite his fugitive status. When we walked into the banquet hall together, the room fell silent. Noah, Lady Helena shrieked. You're supposed to be in custody. And yet here I am, Noah replied calmly. He turned to the emperor. Your Majesty, I request an audience. I have evidence of a plot against the throne. The noble consort stood quickly. This man is a traitor. Guards, seize him. I wouldn't do that if I were you, I said, stepping forward. I held up a sheaf of documents. Unless you want the entire court to learn about your bribes to the palace guards, your secret meetings with foreign dignitaries, your plans to manipulate imperial succession. Her face went white. The emperor's expression darkened. Explain. Now. So we did. Document by document, testimony by testimony, we laid out everything the noble consort had done. Her attempts to consolidate power. Her manipulation of court officials. Her false accusations against Noah to remove him as an obstacle. When we finished, the silence in the hall was deafening. The noble consort tried to defend herself, claiming the evidence was forged, that we were the real traitors. But the emperor had heard enough. Guards, he said quietly, escort the noble consort to the cold palace. She will await my judgment there. As the guards led her away, she screamed curses at us, at the emperor, at everyone. Marcus, who had watched the entire proceeding in shock, approached us afterward. You saw through her, he said to me, when no one else did. I knew what she was capable of, what she would do if left unchecked. And you chose Noah because he would believe me, because he would fight beside me, because he is exactly who I needed him to be. Marcus looked at Noah, then at me, then back. Finally, he bowed his head. I see. Then I suppose I should thank you. You saved our family from disgrace. I didn't do it for your family, I said bluntly. I did it for myself. And for him. After Marcus left, Noah pulled me close. You realize we've made powerful enemies tonight. Let them come. I'm not afraid anymore. I know. He kissed my temple. That's what terrifies me. Later that night, Marcus sent a letter. In it, he apologized not just for that evening but for everything. For failing to see what Serafina truly was. For being blind to the truth. For not being the man he should have been. He wrote that he would support our testimony before the emperor, and use his influence to ensure justice was served. It wasn't redemption exactly, but it was acknowledgement. I burned the letter after reading it. Some apologies mean nothing when they come from the wrong person. The aftermath took weeks to settle. The noble consort was stripped of her title and sent into exile. Several officials she had bribed were also removed from office. Marcus, perhaps finally seeing clearly, publicly declared his support for Noah as the true head of the Sterling family. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 1 month later I fell ill. Not the terminal illness from my previous life, this was something different. A sudden fever, accompanied by weakness and pain. Noah called every physician in the capital. They examined me, prescribed treatments, but nothing worked. I grew weaker by the day. "It's poison," Noah said finally, his voice hollow. "Someone poisoned you. The noble consort? Maybe. Or one of her supporters seeking revenge. It doesn't matter who. What matters is that you're dying, and I don't know how to stop it." I reached up and touched his face. He looked 10 years older, haunted. "Noah, listen to me. In my previous life, I died from illness because my physician was taken from me. This time you've brought me every healer in the empire. If I die now, it's not from neglect. It's not from being forgotten. It's just fate. Fate is bullshit." His hands were shaking. "You came back once. You can come back again. I don't think it works that way. Then I'll make it work." He stood abruptly. "There are legends. Stories of divine healers in the mountains who can cure any ailment. I'll find them. I'll bring them back. Noah, I found you once across time and death. I'll find you again. As many times as it takes." He left before I could argue. For 3 days I drifted in and out of consciousness. The poison was winning. On the 4th day, the door to my chambers burst open. But it wasn't Noah who entered. It was Dr. Aldrich, the physician from my previous life. The one who had been taken to save the noble consort while I died. "Lady Visha," he said, bowing quickly, "I heard of your condition. May I examine you?" I was too weak to refuse. He checked my pulse, looked at my tongue, examined the medications I'd been given. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled out a different medicine, one I didn't recognize. "This poison," he said quietly, "is rare. Exotic. Made from plants found only in the far western regions." He paused, his expression troubled. "Years ago, I was summoned in secret to treat a high-ranking official's concubine who had been poisoned with the same substance. The case was hushed up, but I kept detailed notes. I never thought I'd see this poison again. Why would someone use such a rare poison on me? That," he said grimly, "is a question you should ask once you've recovered." He prepared the antidote and made me drink it. It was bitter, vile. But within an hour the fever broke. By evening I could sit up. By the next morning I was weak but recovering. When Noah returned, unsuccessful in his search for divine healers, he found me sitting up in bed, eating congee. He dropped to his knees beside the bed, pulling me into his arms. "How?" he whispered. "Dr. Aldrich. He knew the antidote." Noah pulled back to look at me. "The same physician who couldn't save you last time? The same. Ironic, isn't it? More like fate evening the scales." I touched his face, feeling the stubble from days without shaving. "You would have kept looking for me, even after I died. For as long as it took. Across lifetimes if necessary. Good thing you didn't have to." He kissed me then, desperate and relieved and absolutely certain. The recovery took 2 months. During that time, Noah investigated relentlessly. He traced the poison back to a merchant who dealt in exotic goods from the western regions. The merchant, under interrogation, revealed he had sold it to a former servant of the noble consort, one who had been dismissed after Seraphina's exile but still harbored loyalty to her mistress. The servant had used her life savings to purchase the poison, hoping to avenge her fallen lady by eliminating the woman who had exposed her. Noah dealt with the assassin personally. I didn't ask for details. When spring came, I was fully recovered. One morning, as we sat in the garden watching peach blossoms fall, Noah said, "I've been thinking. That sounds serious." He smiled. "I want to leave the Shadow Guard. Retire from service." I turned to him in surprise. "You love that work." "I love you more." And I've spent enough of my life dealing in death. I want to spend the rest of it focused on life. Our life. What would we do? Whatever we want. Travel. Build a home away from the capital. Have children if you want them. Or don't. Just be together. Without assassination attempts and political intrigue. I thought about it. About the years ahead. About the possibility of peace. All right, I said. Let's do it. Really? Really? But on one condition. What? We go to the southern province. I want to show you where I grew up. And I want to eat honey chestnuts from Golden Pavilion. His expression softened. I already brought you some. They're in the kitchen. You did. I've been bringing them every week since you got sick. I thought. If you woke up, you'd want them. I kissed him, tasting peach blossoms in spring and the promise of futures we'd fought so hard to claim. Thank you, I whispered. For remembering me. Both times. Always, he said. In every life, in every timeline, I will always remember you. Epilogue. Noah's memory. I am 24 years old, working undercover as a stable hand in the southern province. My real assignment is tracking a corrupt merchant network, but to maintain my cover, I actually care for the horses at the Whitmore family estate. That's where I meet her. Visha, the Marquis's eldest daughter. 16 years old and already being molded into the perfect wife for some capital nobleman. She's exactly what everyone expects. Graceful. Obedient. Gentle in every word and gesture. But I catch her one night, sneaking into the kitchen to steal honey chestnuts. Her grandmother has put her on a strict diet to maintain her figure. She's hungry. And she's found her own small rebellion. When she sees me, wounded from a mission gone wrong, I think she'll scream. Instead, she tilts her head and says, "You're the really good stable hand. The one who tamed the western horse." I should kill her. She's seen too much. Knows too much. But something stops me. Maybe it's the way she's clutching those chestnuts like precious treasure. Maybe it's the flash of defiance in her eyes despite all her training. Or maybe it's just that she's the first person in years to look at me and not see a monster. She blackmails me into teaching her to ride. Claims she'll tell her father about my injuries if I don't. I could still kill her. Should kill her. Instead, I teach her. Over the next few months, she grows bolder. Demands I bring her chestnuts from Golden Pavilion. Insists I teach her things no proper lady should know. I watch her recite the women's code by day and break every rule by night. I think about warning her. Telling her that in the capital, this kind of spirit will be crushed. But I don't. When I'm called back to the capital, I leave without saying goodbye. Better to let her remember me as the stable hand who taught her forbidden things than learn what I really am. Years later, I hear she's come to the capital for the marriage selection. By the time I return from assignment, she's already married to my cousin Marcus. I watch her transform over the years. The light in her eyes dims. The spirit fades. She becomes exactly what they wanted. A perfect, obedient wife. It makes me want to kill something. But there's nothing I can do. She's Marcus's wife. My cousin's wife by law. So I stay away. I focus on my work. I try to forget the girl who once stole chestnuts and demanded to learn to ride. Then she dies. I find out 3 days later. I'm on assignment in the Northern Territories. By the time I return, she's already been buried. At her grave, I kneel in the rain and think about how I should have warned her. Should have told her to stay in the southern province where she could still steal chestnuts at night. I start bringing honey chestnuts from Golden Pavilion every year on the anniversary of her death. I don't know why. Some kind of apology, maybe, for not saving her when I could have. 5 years after her death, I resign from the Shadow Guard. Climb the mountain to pray for her soul. I ask for only one thing. That in her next life, she finds someone who sees her spirit and protects it. Someone who lets her be wild and free. Then I hear rumors. Whispers from the palace about a divine healer who can manipulate time itself. Takes me 3 months to find him. Another month to convince him. And all the money I've saved over my entire career to pay him. But finally he agrees. I can send you back, he says. To a moment of your choosing. But only once. And you cannot change what happened. You can only live it differently. Send me to the palace banquet, I say. 8 years ago. Where she chose Marcus. You'll remember everything. She won't. That's fine. Just send me back. When I wake up at the banquet, I know exactly what to do. I wait for her to speak, to choose Marcus as she did before. But then something impossible happens. She looks past Marcus, looks directly at me, and says my name, Noah. In that moment, I realize something has changed. Some other force is at work. Because she's looking at me the way she used to look at those honey chestnuts. Like stolen treasure. Like precious rebellion. Like she knows exactly what she's doing. And when she says later in our wedding chamber, because you were the only one who remembered me when I died, I understand. She came back too. Somehow impossibly we both returned. Both given a second chance. This time I won't waste it. This time I'll protect her spirit. Let her be wild. Keep her safe while she finds herself again. In my first life I failed her by staying away. In this life I will not fail her. I'll never let go. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more powerful stories every day. Thanks for watching.